come on down. We need more movies like this. Why don't we get them?
Yes, I know, but that's Patrick LeConte's style. He's usually pretty economical as a filmmaker.
Yes, so you've got to commend him for that. So you've got Chief Inspector Jules Maigret is on the case here, and we're in Paris in 1953. Gerard Depardieu, when did we last see him in a movie that came out here in Australia? Can anybody recall?
Oh, look, he was in 3 films at the French Film Festival, I think.
Yes, but I mean, I'm talking about sort of if you like, a mainstream release or independent release. But he's making a lot of movies, but we don't see a lot of them out here.
Lost Illusions is going to get a commercial release.
Yes, it is. In fact, it's coming out very, very soon. Okay, so Paris, 1953, and Gerard takes on the title role as this aging cop, hardly in the peak of health, trying to track down the murderer of a young woman. And the victim, Louise Levier, played by Clara Ann Toons, well, no older than 20. And we see her at the start of the movie trying on a stylish gown. Then you've got an angry confrontation that follows. And next thing you know, she's dead, having been stabbed. And the clues are sparse. But Maigret, well, he's like a rat up a drain pipe. He soon discovers Louise is like many other young women longing for the bright lights of the French capital who end up in rough surrounds and exploited. She'd sublet an apartment from a bit actress called Janine Armagnou, played by Melanie Bernier. And that actress entered the show business scene thanks to her arrogant businessman boyfriend, Laurent Clement Valois, played by Pierre Moore, and the pair of them are engaged. And on the night that Louise died, there was a confrontation between Louise and Janine, and also Laurent. So there was this sort of toing and froing. Also, apparently pulling the strings from behind the scenes is Laurent's affluent mother, Madame Clermont Valois, played by Aurore Clement. Just what went down, though, isn't clear until Maigret befriends another newcomer to town, a 21-year-old girl called Betty, played by Jade Lebest, and she bears a striking resemblance to Louise. So, as you've said, Maigret, the film's the work of the co-writer Jerome Tenier and the director Patrice Leconte from a book by Georges Simenon. And I've got to say, Greg, an air of foreboding permeates the work. I really appreciated the production design and the period detail. And, of course, there are a few red herrings thrown in, as you would expect in an investigation of this sort. But it's like a police procedural that's got a sort of a period detail to it.
Yeah, and the way it's shot in sort of grey tones adds to that all foreboding, ominous atmosphere and suits the sort of noir-like quality and tone of the film there. I thought Gerard Depardieu was a good fit to the character of Maigret, who's been played by various actors, including Michael Gambon and Rowan Atkinson recently. And he's along the likes of Sherlock Holmes and Hercule Poirot as one of those great detectives of literature there. This is based on, I think, the 46th novel in the series, Maigret and the Dead Girl, and it's been nicely adapted there by Leconte and Jerome.
Did you say 46th, Greg? Did you say 46th?
The 46th, yeah, out of 78 novels.
Yeah, how many?
78 novels.
Unbelievable.
Well, but I thought Gerard Depardieu brought his formidable presence, an air of gravitas there, and his hangdog, well-weary expression that suggests he's seen so too much suited the character here. I think it gives him a sort of a sad vibe there. And as I said before, Patrice Leconte is a very economical filmmaker, so there's a very little waste or flab here in the 89-minute running time there. And I thought Maigret's obsession with Betty also added a little bit of texture to the film as well. But it's a very bleak, dour-looking film, Alex.
Yeah, it certainly is that, no question about it. I mean, I thought Gerard Depardieu as the centrepiece worked very well. He's painted as this sort of weather-beaten character, while the youngsters' features are they're far more skittish. And Maigret's affinity for Betty is explained as the film unfolds. I mean, Betty being the sort of the character who he meets later on in the piece, and there's something more there than at first meets the eye. And it relates to not only Louise's death, that's the other young girl who died, but to something in his that is Maigret and his wife's personal situation.
That obsession with Betty reminded me a little bit of Vertigo as well.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that's a good call. I think Jade LeBest has a bit of get up and go in her. She takes advantage of the sort of anti-establishment streak in her character, and I think that works pretty well, Dave. Have you seen this one or not?
Yeah, I have, and I thought this was really refreshing because, to me, detectives are Columbo and Jessica Lansbury's character in Murder, She Wrote. I love the fact that this is a detective story where all of the information basically comes from interviews, which gives the screenwriter the right to kind of charge this film, whereas so many modern-day detective stories these days are all about car chases and shootouts, and we've even seen that kind of happen with Poirot, with the Death on the Nile and films like that, yes, where they've been Hollywoodized. I loved that this was a detective story where the screenplay was so important to the story that was being told. I actually thought that the storyline between Betty and Maigret was also very similar to a Rebus detective storyline, where there was a episode called The Hanging Garden, which was also based on a novel, which also had a very similar storyline where a detective...
We're running out of time, I'm afraid, Dave. Just, Peter, some very quick thoughts from you.
Look, Maigret is a film that should have been longer. It should have developed the Gerard Depardieu grief sort of situation that he was in, and the murder that he was investigating. I think there's a bit more to be fleshed out in the story, so I was a little disappointed by the film, even though the atmosphere is quite good.
It was perfect running time, Peter. How often can you get it wrong is my question. That's all I can ask. Anyway, having said that, give me a score, Peter Krausz, please.
It's not a bad film, but Maigret has been done better in other films. 6 out of 10.
Okay, what about you, Greg King?
6 out of 10 from me too. It's very atmospheric and very grey and bleak, but yeah, I think just something didn't grab me about this one.
And Dave?
A 7 out of 10 from me.
And a 7 out of 10 for me. That's it, folks, for